नमस्कार बहुत दिन पर आपन देखुची
Sanjay, you can start. Recording has started.
Madam, namaskar.
Namaskar.
A very good afternoon to all of you. Respected Honourable Vice-Chancellor of Berhampur University, respected Resource person, Professor Shyama Prasad Guru sir, all other faculty members, my colleagues, and all the participants. I, convener of this webinar, Mr. Sanjaya, on behalf of the PG Department of Political Science, Berhampur University, welcome you all to this state webinar. Today's the topic of discussion is Indian political culture, trends and prospects. And today amidst us, eminent Professor Shyama Prasad Guru. So first of all, I would like to welcome our Vice-Chancellor Madam and all the participants. First of all, I would like to request our Vice-Chancellor Madam to inaugurate the session and to say a few lines. Please, ma'am.
Thank you, Sanjay. It's actually a pleasure to receive Professor Guru. He is my guru because whenever I go to Sambalpur University, I always love to meet him. So, and today actually I have got a very important assignment, so I cannot be there to listen to him. I'll be deprived of this very distinguished lecture. So I'm very happy that the head of the department and other faculty members have arranged such a nice webinar, which will really benefit our students. Actually, we should arrange such seminars and webinars very frequently, so that apart from the classroom teaching, the students will be exposed to learned speakers who are numerous in number in throughout the state and also nationwide. So we can have webinars if we cannot invite all the time, everybody all the time. So at least we can meet each other on this virtual platform. So nice to see you, sir. I welcome you to this webinar. On behalf
thank you, madam. Thank you, madam.
On behalf of Berhampur University, on my personal behalf, and on behalf of Department of Political Science, which is my alma mater also.
Yes.
So thank you very much. So the topic is also very important, because keeping in view today's democracy and the turmoil in South Asia, political culture is very important, because political socialization is a part of it, and the process of political process by which the socialization is a process by which people are people get into political culture. So political culture is the whole process of the it's the attitude, beliefs, sentiments which give order and meaning to political process. So political process in East and West, we can say it's a little bit different also. So if in case of India, we can say we had got a very feudal structure, very feudal political culture. And sometimes I used to say as a criticism that our society was feudal, and on this feudal society, democracy was superimposed by the liberal democracy was superimposed by the Britishers. But very fortunate, we are so fortunate that over this 75 years, we have become a mature democracy. So political culture of the people is also getting ripened, and we are accepting democracy. We are becoming part and parcel of liberal democracy, even though there are some feudal elements, even though still there is some legacy is going on. Democracy is not democracy, though it is very it is there is decentralized and everything is there, but still the some form of feudal political culture is still prevailing. So this is also a concern. This is also a concern for any creative thinker in political science, because we have to get rid of this feudal element, get rid of this conservative element in democracy, get rid of this that like what we call the Parivar Vada or Vangsha Vada. This is also a part of our political culture, because normally we were in a monarchical system. So the system was very feudal in ancient days, and gradually we become the state building process and the nation building process was it started along from since 19th century and in 20th century. And to name a few, the all the nationalist movement, nationalist the freedom fighters were very much, they were very democratic in their outlook. So that is why the political culture could be spread throughout the country. So this is a very innovative topic, and very it's a very relevant topic also, keeping in view the today's turmoil throughout South Asia, because South Asia is undergoing a very strong turbulence. But we are saved. We are saved. We are still a democratic country. We are getting strengthened day by day. So democracy, there is no denying saying that democracy is getting it is becoming stronger day by day. So for this, political culture is definitely a powerful element. So thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sanjaya, and thank you, Department of
Yes.
Political Science.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
inviting me. I would have loved to be with you. So maybe next time. Sir, namaskar.
Namaskar. I'm also honored by your kind presence. And since you have accepted me as your guru, I'm also proud to have a student like you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, madam, for joining with us despite your busy schedule. We are really thankful to you, madam. Then I'd like to request our organizing secretary of this event, Dr. Dasharathi Bhuyan, sir, coordinator of the PG Department of Political Science, to continue the proceedings, to conduct and to introduce the theme of this event. Over to you,
Good
sir.
afternoon to one and all present. Honourable Vice-Chancellor, Professor Geetanjali Madam, our respected keynote speaker, Professor Shyama Prasad Guru, dear colleagues, students and scholars. Today, we all have joined this webinar to discuss on a very important topic on political culture, trends and prospects. Anthropologist E.V. Taylor used the term culture for the first time as a subject in social science. And according to E.V. Taylor, culture is a complex whole which includes knowledge, behavior, art, law, moral, customs, and any other capabilities and habits acquired by man as a member of society. Thus, culture relates to society, and what kind of habits a man adopts is called culture. Culture is that whole way of life which is determined by social environment. Thus, culture is learned, culture is shared, and culture is transmitted. When different people of a society interact with each other, then a culture is developed, and they learn culture by each other. Culture is also shared. Culture is not a thing which a person can enjoy separately. It is a thing which every person shares, so we can say the culture is sharing process when we discuss with other men. Then we communicate something and share our views. In this way, culture is shared. Culture is also transmitted. Culture is transferred from generation to generation, and it is a continuous process. But political culture is different from the general culture. The term culture or political culture was first used by Gabriel Almond in 1956 in his essay, Comparative Political System. And Almond, Sidney Verba wrote a book named Civic Culture, and in that book they used this term political culture. And every political system has its own political culture, and it is a part of general culture. Individuals' attitudes and values are the result of political socialization. Political orientation of the people can be due to three factors. Number one, it is the individual's perception. Number two, it is his, her feelings or attitudes. Number three, his opinions. The perceptions, the attitudes, the opinion produce effects on the political system. And political culture influences political system. Political culture has its own subcultures. So this concept of political culture is that it is a set of attitudes, beliefs, and orientations of the people towards the political system. And according to Almond and Powell, political culture is the pattern of individuals' attitudes and orientations towards politics among the members of the political system. There are three dimensions of political culture, such as cognitive, affective, and evaluative. Cognitive dimension means knowledge of political system. It means that people have full information, knowledge about the different part of political system. They know about different parts and process of political system. The effective dimension means that people feeling about the political system, whether they are liking or not liking. And this kind of a feeling are called affective orientation. Lastly, evaluative dimensions mean the people living a political system, how they evaluate their judgment of what the political system is called evaluative orientation. So India in this regard is a home to a large diverse population with a broad variety of racial and ethnic backgrounds, economic interests, activities, and significant regional variations. So a complex interplay of diverse historical, institutional, economic, geographical, and social forces constantly redefines how people of India think of themselves. A political culture is a product of many interrelated factors, traditional as well as modern elements. So changes in political culture come under the influence of these factors. A study of these factors is essential for the understanding of the political culture. So lastly, I hope this webinar will be highly useful and beneficial to everyone, the students, the stakeholders, the scholars, etc. Thank you all. Now, I request my colleague, Rajesh Seth, Dr. Rajesh Seth, to introduce the guests. Please, sir.
Sir, you are not audible, sir. I'm not clear your voice.
Yes. Sound is not coming. Sanjay, are you able to hear me?
Yes, yes, sir. You are clear your voice. Just have presence.
Rajesh, hello.
Then it must be some technical problem with Rajesh.
Sir, sir.
Rajesh,
Sir.
so unmute your audio. Unmute your audio.
Okay, am I audible now?
Oh yes, Rajesh.
Yes, both.
Yes, I'm able to
Visible and
hear you.
audible. Okay.
Thank you, sir, for offering me this opportunity to introduce the guest of this webinar. So I have the honor to introduce our beloved Vice-Chancellor, Professor Geetanjali Das. Before joining here as the Vice-Chancellor, she served as a lecturer and reader in different government colleges of Berhampur and Baleshwar from 1988 to 2007. She also held various key positions like Chairperson PG Council, Registrar, Member Executive Council, Dean Social Sciences, Warden, Chairman Board of Studies, Head of the Department, Director Library in Fakiruddin University between 2008 to 2021. She has been a student of reputed institutions like Allahabad University, Utkal University, Berhampur University before joining Odisha Education Service in the year 1987. She has delivered more than 75 keynote talks at national and international conferences in India and abroad. She has successfully guided 5 PhD scholars, 38 MPhil scholars, and more than 80 PG students in preparation of their thesis and dissertations. Besides this, she has authored and edited 5 books and published several research papers and book chapters in various reputed publications. Now, I have the proud privilege to introduce our esteemed teacher, Professor Shyama Prasad Guru, former Professor Department of Sambalpur University. So Professor Guru has exhibited extraordinary academic brilliancy throughout his career, securing first class in all his examinations. He started his teaching career as a lecturer in political science from Panchayat College, Borgar in the year 1976. Joined Sambalpur University as a lecturer in the year 1977, became a reader in the year 1990, and professor in the year 1999, which he continued till his retirement in the year 2011. He has published a number of books and research papers monographing various reputed journals, besides serving as an expert in the Public Service Commission for selection of professor in political science and for civil service examinations at state and national level. He is undoubtedly a top-level expert in modern political theory, which we came to know when he taught us in our literature course in Sambalpur University. Because it is his style of teaching that and his style of explaining the difficult concept of modern political theory in easy and interesting way that help us to understand and develop an interest in modern political theory. So, in our professor course, I remember he taught for 3 hours without having any single book, and he explained all the difficult concept of modern political theory, particularly concept of political development. Besides this, he has many administrative experience. He served as the head of the department several times. He was also director of College Development Council in the year 1997. He was also director of University Employment Information and Guidance Bureau from 2009 to 2011. So it is really our privilege to have Professor Guru with us, who is going to deliver his talk on a very important and relevant topic. Thank you, sir, for sharing time despite your busy and pressing schedule. Now I hand over the session to our organizing secretary and coordinator, Dr. Dasharathi. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Rajesh. The time is now for delivering on the topic. I request Professor Shyama Prasad Guru sir to start his speech on the topic, sir. Please, sir.
Yes. Honourable Vice-Chancellor of Berhampur University, Professor Geeta Das, in absentia. She has left the webinar now for official work. Esteemed coordinator of the department, Professor Bhuyan, and other worthy faculty members of the department, erudite scholars who are listening to the web discussions, and knowledge-seeking students present here. At the outset, I would like to express my sincere and heartfelt thanks to the Vice-Chancellor, Professor Geeta Das, to Professor Bhuyan, my student Sanjaya, my student like Rajesh, and other faculty members who have together decided to invite me to have some academic gossips with you and the interested students. I call it academic gossips because unless we interact and gossip with one another, exchange our views on academic matters, no concept can be understood meaningfully and fruitfully. This is the prerequisite, therefore. So I'm extremely thankful to all of you, all the organizers, for your kindness towards me, to invite me to address on this occasion, especially to the students of the department. So far as today's discussions and deliberations are concerned, I have selected the topic. I informed Sanjay that I will speak on this topic: Indian political culture, trends and prospects. But the fundamental question which needs to be answered and understood: why I selected this topic for discussions and deliberations? What is the importance of this topic? What is the relevance? Why students of political science need to understand this topic? The reason is very significant. I have selected this topic because of its tremendous importance and relevance. For the students of political science specifically, and for each and every citizen of India in general. So every citizen of this country needs to be aware of the pattern of political culture that characterizes us. Every student and researcher in political science need to be aware of the pattern of political culture of India. Because political culture of India is the foundation of the Indian political system. It is the foundation. Just as in a building, we have a foundation on which the edifice of the building stands or is erected. Similarly, the foundation of a political culture of the people of a given society, the edifice or superstructure of the political system is built or designed. So this is the linkage between political culture and the political system. The dynamics of a political system, and in this case, so far this topic is concerned, the dynamics of the Indian political system, Indian democratic political system, is crucially influenced by, or tends to be crucially influenced by, the pattern of a political culture that characterizes the people of India today. The dynamics of the Indian democratic political system and the prospect of the Indian political system as a whole, in the context of its stability, viability, growth, development, or in the context of its change, transformation, even resulting in ruin or disintegration. All these are completely or mostly determined by the pattern of political culture of the people of India. If the foundation is weak, the building would collapse. So we need to strengthen the foundation. Foundation is the pattern of political culture. Then only the building of the Indian political system can survive and last, would become durable. This is the linkage between political culture of India and the democratic political system in India. This is the reason why every student of political science, every researcher in political science who is interested in undertaking a study and analysis of the Indian political system, the dynamics of the Indian political system, Even each and every common citizen of the country needs to be aware of the pattern of political culture that characterizes us. Because it is the pattern of political culture which inheres in our mind, gets reflected and manifested in our political behavior. And it is political behavior of the people of India which determines significantly how the Indian political system would function in reality. For attaining stability and viability or undergoing change of transformation. Therefore, political culture is of crucial importance for the dynamics of a political system, and that is the reason why I have selected this topic intentionally. So that the students of political science in general and each and every citizen of this country also need to be made aware of it. We must know what inheres our mind, how our political behavior is controlled and conditioned, and how the dynamics of the Indian political system gets influenced and affected thereby. And my discussions and deliberations on this topic are specifically meant for students of political science, the graduate students, the postgraduate students, the MPhil and research scholars in political science, so that they can explore into the pattern of political culture of the people of India and think of remedial measures, what to do for strengthening the Indian political system, so that the Indian political system can enjoy a large measure of stability and viability through time. So my discussions and deliberations are exclusively meant for students and also those members in the audience who are interested in this topic to know and learn. As regard my discussions and deliberations on this topic is concerned, I have structured my discussions in two major parts. The first part relates to the theoretical framework, a theory of a political culture, which has already been hinted by Professor Bhuyan in his introductory address. And the second part relates to the empirical analysis and investigations regarding the pattern of political culture that prevails today, that characterizes the Indian people in general. These are the two major parts which I shall address in the process of my discussions and deliberations. Let me now come to the first part, a theory of a political culture. We need a theory for understanding each and every phenomenon in this universe. Without a theory, no meaningful and systematic analysis and understanding of a phenomenon may be undertaken or may take place. Theory is therefore of crucial importance. It provides such guidelines how we shall proceed. So we must have a theory of political culture since we are interested in undertaking a study and analysis of the Indian political culture and are interested in examining its implications upon the Indian political system in the context of its dynamics and performances. We need to have a theory of a political culture that would guide us to discern the pattern of Indian political culture, to typify it, and to bring about a linkage between the pattern of political culture that prevails in India and the Indian democratic political system. This is the importance and relevance of the theory of political culture. So unless we are acquainted with the theory of political culture, it may be difficult for us to understand the pattern of Indian political culture and the implications it casts on the performance of the Indian political system and determines or conditions its prospect. As regard a theory of political culture, I think we may be immensely benefited if we look to and follow the theoretical formulation of Professor Gabriel Almond. Professor Gabriel Almond of Princeton University of USA happens to be the founding father of the concept of political culture. As Professor Bhuyan has rightly pointed out, The nomenclature political culture was first coined by Professor Gabriel Almond in 1956, published in his pioneering research paper entitled Comparative Political Systems, which was published in the Journal of Politics in 1956, volume number 18, page number 398. So Gabriel Almond happens to be the founding father of this concept. Subsequently, Professor Almond refined his notion on political culture, extended it, and he designed a theory of political culture which we come across in his most significant work, The Civic Culture, published in 1963 by Princeton University Press of USA. It is in that book, The Civic Culture, that we come across a meaningful theory of a political culture, the most relevant theory on political culture. It helps us in discerning, in characterizing, in exploring, in typifying patterns of political culture of the people of a given national society. How we shall characterize the political culture of India, or the political culture of USA, or the political culture of America, or any other national society, in empirical situation, in realistic perspective. The path is shown to us, the model is given to us by Professor Gabriel Almond. And what he says? Political culture is the pattern of a political orientations of the people of a given national society. Political orientations toward political objects, orientations toward politics and the political system of which the individual or individuals are members. They form orientation, perceptions. And orientation has three components: cognition, affect, and evaluation. I need not go into the detail. Professor Bhuyan has already highlighted it. So these three components of an orientation need to be explored into in respect of four major categories of political objects, says Professor Gabriel Almond. The first one is the national political system is a general object in respect to its location, geography, size, population statistics, history, and constitutional characteristics. The second object relates to the output structures. For instance, legislature, executive, judiciary, and the process of performing their output functions: rule making, rule application, and rule adjudication. Third category relates to the input structures involving parties, pressure groups, media of communications, and political socializers, and the way they perform their corresponding functions. Functions of interest articulation, interest aggregation, political communication, and political socialization. And the fourth category of object relates to the self as an actor in the political process. How does an individual view himself as a member of the society, as a political actor of the society, in relation to the political system of which he is a member? So the perception of the individual, his orientations in respect of cognition, affect, and evaluation toward these four categories of political objects needs to be explored into, inquired into, so that we can discern political culture at the level of the individual. And on the basis of such an empirical exploration, Gabriel Almond identifies three types of pure political cultures: parochial culture, subject culture, and participant culture. In case of parochial political culture, the individual is not at all oriented toward the four categories of political objects. He is completely selfish, self-centered. He is concerned with his own local affairs or family affairs. He is not concerned about the national political system or the input objects or output objects of himself as a political actor. His cognition is zero, therefore it doesn't have any effect and evaluation. So orientations of the individual toward the four categories of political objects approach zero. He is a parochial. Subject political culture is the political culture of an individual who is oriented toward the national political system is a general object and the output objects, but is not at all oriented toward the input objects and the self as an actor in the political process. And participant political culture is the culture of that individual who is oriented toward all these four categories of political objects in terms of cognition, in terms of effect, in terms of evaluation. Such an individual has a high sense of efficacy or competence. He participates actively in the political process. Such an individual may be termed as a participant individual, culturally speaking. So these are the three types of individuals who may be noticed so far as their cultural patterns are concerned, political cultural patterns are concerned. But this is the pure type. What Almond notices empirically, that in every individual, all these three types of orientations are present. Individual is a cultural mixed type of individual. All these three types of orientations are present, parochial, subject and participant, but they are not present equally in the same individual. In the individuals, these three types of orientations are present in different proportions, different quantities. So in that individual in whom the parochial orientations is found to prevail over, predominant, as regard the subject and participant orientation, such an individual may be characterized as parochial individual, culturally speaking. Similarly, in the psychology or orientation of an individual, if subject orientations predominate compared to other two types of orientations, he may be characterized as a subject individual. If in the individual participants' orientations prevail over other two types of orientations, parochial and subject, he may be termed as a participant individual. So all these three types of orientations are present in the same individual, but in different proportions, not equally. One orientation is found to be predominant as against other two types of orientations. This is the empirical situation he observes. Similarly, in the population of a given society, how do we characterize the political culture of a society? Almond says, again, we may observe the phenomenon of cultural mix there. Because in the population of a society, different types of individuals are found composing the society. If in a society, in the population of a society, some individuals are found to be parochial, some individuals are found to be subject individuals, some individuals are found to be participant individuals. Then how to characterize the political culture of the society in general? Here Almond classifies the mixed types of political cultures in reality, in empirical situations, into four major types or categories. Parochial, the first one, parochial subject political culture, subject participant political culture, parochial participant political culture, and civic culture. These are the four major types of mixed political cultures which have been classified by Gabriel Almond, keeping in view the empirical situation. As regard the first one, parochial subject political culture, in the population, most of the people are parochial individuals, only a few have subject orientations. In case of subject participant political culture, most of the people are subject individuals, only few have the participant orientations. In case of parochial participant political culture, most of the people participate actively in the political process, but that participation gets influenced heavily or very strongly by parochial allegiances and interests. This is the distinguishing feature. And in case of civic orientations or civic culture, all these three types of orientations are synthesized harmoniously, blended finely, peacefully in the same individual mind. The individual retains his parochial allegiance. The individual retains his subject allegiance or subject orientations. The individual forms his participant orientations. He participates actively in the political process, but at the same time, he renders obedience to the political system. He is allegiance to the political system. At the same time, he retains his parochial allegiances to primordial institutions and primary groups. But all these three types of orientations do not crosscut one another. They do not conflict with one another. They are harmoniously synthesized, meaning thereby the individual develops a national and rational orientations toward politics. He is national in orientations, highly patriotic, nationalistic in orientations, in thinking, in activities, in behavior, in participation. And whenever there would be any conflict between the national interest and his parochial allegiance, that individual is prepared to sacrifice his parochial interest to further and promote the national interest. Such an individual is a civic individual. So civic political culture is a allegiantly participant political culture. It is characterized essentially by national and rational orientations of the individuals. And this type of political culture, according to Almond, is most befitting for democratic society, for democratic political system. So unless civic culture is formed in the people, unless people behave civically in the sense of forming national and rational orientations, a democratic political system can never survive or become durable. It will experience malfunctioning dysfunctions in the process of its working and performances. Its development and growth would be hindered. There would be no peace. For peace, for order, for development, for growth, for integration, for unity, for coherence, formation of a civic culture is extremely essential. This is the theoretical formulation which Almond gives us. So on the basis of this theory of a political culture, designed or conceptualized by Gabriel Almond, we may undertake our academic endeavors to analyze the political system of India. The political pattern of political culture of the Indian people. What is the pattern of political culture that characterizes the people of India? This is the second part of my deliberations. Empirically speaking, as I notice, and some scholars may also agree with me, in India, we have introduced a democratic political system. The constitution is a democratic political constitution. The Constitution of India provides us rights, liberty, universal franchise, provides for a free system of election. People elect their representatives. Elections are conducted regularly. People elect the representatives through these regular elections, periodic elections. And their representatives constitute the government, the representatives who are responsible to the people and responsive to public opinion. So the framework of a democracy has been provided to us. And the citizens of India do participate actively in the political process, vote at the elections regularly. If you look at the electoral behavior of the people of India, we find that on an average, 60% of the Indian electorate do participate in the elections, in casting their votes. And they participate actively, they're not passive. A number of Indian citizens are members of parties, members of pressure groups. And people also view the performance, judge the performance of the government in casting their vote in the elections, as we note from either the anti-incumbency voting pattern or the pro-incumbency voting pattern. If they vote for the incumbent ruling party, they evaluate it as good. If they reject it, anti-incumbency voting pattern, they reject it on the consideration that it has failed. Its policies are not beneficial. So whether the voting behavior displays the anti-incumbency pattern or pro-incumbency pattern, people judge the performance of the government, vote in the elections actively. And that is the activism or activeness of the Indian voters. So voting is extensive. Voting is active. Political participation is both active and extensive. This is required for the working of a democracy. And therefore, on the whole, or in superficially, you may say that India is functioning as a democratic political system because people do participate actively and extensively. But what is the pattern of their political participation? How do they vote at the elections? If we look at it, analyze it, we find that the voting of the people or political participation of the Indian citizens in general is found to be significantly or heavily or very strongly influenced by parochial considerations, parochial allegiances. They give a primacy or priority to their family, to their tribe, to their caste, to their language, to their religion, to their region. But they do not give importance to or priority to national interest, national development, national growth. That is the reason why empirically we may come to conclusion that Indian political culture is a type that fits into Almond's classification of political culture as parochial participant political culture. It is not completely participant, it is parochial participant political culture. Because people do participate, yes, but they participate on being tremendously influenced by parochial considerations for furthering their parochial allegiances and interests. They sacrifice the national interest in the process. Therefore, the pattern of political culture of India that we find today is the type of parochial participant political culture, and this parochial participant culture doesn't fit in with the Indian democratic political system. A democratic political system requires civic culture to be formed in the people, get manifested and reflected in their political behavior, activities, and participation. That is the requirement. Then only a democratic political system can function smoothly, can realize the goal of its development as a whole. But people do participate on extraneous considerations and parochial considerations. And therefore, national unity and integration is at stake. See here the recent example here, the Nupur Sharma case. Why widespread disturbances throughout the country? See here the Agnivir or Agnipath scheme of the government. Why we find or notice widespread disturbances throughout the length and breadth of the country? Look at the CAA, Citizenship Amendment Act. Why we witness the phenomenon of Steinberg? In most of the parts of the country, we find disturbances. People, through their political behavior, challenge the government because they are not national and rational in their orientations and political behavior. Political culture is therefore parochial participant type, and therefore is the problem, the dysfunctions or the malfunctioning of the Indian political system. So they participate, they have participant political culture, no doubt, but not civic culture. The participant political culture which people practice is found to be very strongly vitiated, tarnished, blemished by some very significant undemocratic, anti-democratic elements or psychological propensities or mindset, or their behavior becomes undemocratic. So what are the major undemocratic and anti-democratic psychological propensities or mindset of the people of India in general? I'm speaking on in general. that creates a disturbances on the path of formation of civic culture in the people. Why till 75 years of independence in India we have not yet been able to form civic culture in us? And at present we find that our pattern of political culture is being characterized by parochial participant type. That creates problem in the path of development and growth, in the path of order and peace in society. Why? What are the major stupendous, detrimental, anti-democratic and undemocratic elements or attributes or psychological traits that characterize Indian mind or political culture of the people of India in general? I have noticed 4 major undemocratic or anti-democratic tendencies, psychological tendencies or attitudes or orientations that characterize the mindset of the people in general. The first one is parochial mindset. Second one is authoritarian mindset. Third one is fatalistic mindset. And fourth one is criminal mindset. These are the 4 major anti-democratic or undemocratic psychological propensities or mindset that characterize the people of India and that stand on the way of creating civic culture in the people. Let us analyze or look at the first anti-democratic, undemocratic psychological attribute, parochialism. Most of the citizens of India are found to have come under very strong parochial allegiances. They are very strongly attached to their primary or primordial institutions of a family, caste, tribe, language, religion, region, etc. Why? Why parochialism has taken such as very deep roots in Indian mind? The reason is, traditionally speaking, from antiquity till date, we have not been able to make ourselves free from parochial allegiances, parochial interests. And what is the reason there? From antiquity till 1947, India was never a politically united nation state. It was only in 15th August 1947 that India became independent from British rule. A united, politically constituted India emerged. Traditionally, India was never a united state. The Indian peninsula was composed of or constituted of a number of small states and principalities. And moreover, in traditional socio-political life, the principle of society politics dichotomy was practiced. The people in general didn't participate. They were not allowed to participate in the political decision-making process. Decisions were being made politically or at the level of the government by the rulers, his nominees, a few elites, not the people as a whole. Mass political participation was denied. Therefore, people of India, they became much attached to the primordial institutions, their cultural institutions, their religious institutions, and they developed parochial allegiances. So parochialism, we have inherited this attribute from antiquity through generations till date. And till date, we have not been able to free ourselves from these cycles of parochialism, despite 75 years of independence have already taken place. And once we are attached to parochial orientations, we think parochially, behave parochially, we sacrifice national interest. The nation may go to dogs, but we must get things done for ourselves, our community, our religion, our tribe. This is the attitude. It was only after 1947, after independence, and more so only from 1952 onwards, first general election, that the democratic constitution of India provided scope to all the citizens of India to participate in the political process. And the roots may be traced to the year 1921, when Mahatma Gandhi initiated the Indian independence movement. And people experienced for the first time the need for a common nationhood that got materialized only in 1947, on 15th August 1947. So people get the opportunity to participate, but till date they have not been able to free themselves from these cycles of parochialism or parochial allegiances. Mindset is parochial. This is an anti-democratic tendency or attribute or trait. The second major anti-democratic trait is authoritarianism. An authoritarian mindset we have inherited, formed in ourselves from antiquity till date through generations again, because of the impact of our socio-cultural institutions. Traditionally, we have inherited, we have learned, we have imbibed authoritarian attitudes or orientations. How? Look at the society and the social institutions. Take, for instance, analyze two major institutions of the society, the family as an institution and school as an institution. And understand how authoritarian values are transmitted to the individual from childhood to adolescence and becomes an integral part of his psychology, gets reflected in his behavior. The individual behaves authoritarianly when he becomes an adult because of the indoctrination of authoritarian orientations in the individual during childhood and during adolescence under the aegis of family and the school. Look at the family. What the family teaches to the children, members of the family. Be a good boy or good girl by rendering unquestioning obedience to the elders. Unquestioning obedience. You cannot say your own opinion as to what is good or bad, but you have to obey what the elders say, what the parents in the family say. The parents in the family or elders in the family are eulogized, glorified. Authority is glorified in the family. Look at our traditional teaching. Pita dharma, pita swarga, pita hi paramotapa, pitari pritimapanne priyante sarva devata. This is the teaching. The father in the family is the incarnation of God, is the God, living God. You must obey. If you do not, you revolt against God and get sins. You will be punished in hell. Pita dharma, pita swarga, pita hi paramotapa, pitari pritimapanne priyante sarva devata. See to what extent an authoritarian attitude is inducted into the members of the family, into the children, into young mind, into the mind of the children and the adolescents. And advice and counsels are given, be a good boy or good girl by rendering obedience. Otherwise, the boy or the girl would be scolded, rebuked, punished for disobedience. Similarly, what we find in the school. In the school system, even today, after 75 years of independence, what the school teaches manifestly, directly to the students. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Deva Maheshwara, Guru Sakhyat Param Brahma, Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah. The teacher is glorified, eulogized, deified. Deification of authority. That is the message which is communicated directly to the students through the aegis of the school. So the individual would learn authoritarian orientations. He views the teacher as the incarnation of God. Pitru Deva Bhava, Matru Deva Bhava, Acharya Deva Bhava, all are Devas, all are like God. They must be obeyed, they cannot be disobeyed. If you disobey, you are disobeying God and therefore you will be punished in hell. You are committing a sin. This is the message which is communicated, and this is an authoritarian orientation. And what is that authoritarian orientation? The tendency to submit to the superiors and the tendency to impose and dominate over the inferiors. So in the family, in educational institutions, in other social institutions, the value of liberty and equality are not at all practiced. These are the democratic values which an individual must be trained and inducted through his lifetime. But values of liberty, values of equality, we teach in the classrooms, but we do not practice in the home. We do not practice these values in our social institutions of which we are members. So values of equality and values of liberty, they adorn the pages of the Constitution, they adorn the pages of books. In reality, we communicate authoritarian values. In reality, we behave authoritarianly. And this authoritarianism, which is learned by the individual from childhood and adolescence, gets manifested and reflected when as an adult he performs his political roles. Whether he is a member of the legislature or member of the executive, member of a political party, or member of any social institution, he behaves authoritarianly. He tends to impose his views on others. He completely ignores and flouts the values of liberty and equality. How can there be democracy without liberty and equality? Can we think of it? And the third, undemocratic, anti-democratic attitude or orientation, fatalism. Fatalism is a mindset which characterizes almost most of the people of India, most of the citizens. How? And this fatalistic orientation or fatalistic mindset is the outcome, is the product of our scriptural indoctrination, our religious teachings, which communicate us to the values of tolerance of ambiguities and contradictions. Our religious scriptures teach us, traditionally speaking, to tolerate ambiguities and contradictions. Go to any temple, the Shiva temple or the Vishnu temple. Lord Shiva and Vishnu, these are the two great gods of Indian mythology or Indian religion. Visit the Shiva temple, what do you find? Existence of contradictions. Visit any Vishnu temple, existence of contradictions. Look at the family of Shiva. You can find there the bull, the lion, the serpent, the peacock, the mouse. All these are enemies, natural enemies, but they stay together. Look at the family of Lord Vishnu. There is Sheshanaga, the servant. At the same time, he is Vahana, Garuda. They are natural enemies. Coexistence of contradictions. Read Bhagavad Gita, what will you find? In chapter 6, in Gita, we come across the statement, Karmanyavadhikaraste. You have a right to work. In chapter 18, what do you find? Again, the contradictory statement. Ishvara sarvabhutanang hridasir junatishthati brahmayan sarvabhutani jantra rudha nimayaya. You have no independence to make a choice of work. On one hand says, you have a right to work. You can make a choice of work. At the same time, in 18th, chapter 18 says, no, you can do nothing. You have no freedom. You cannot make any choice because you are a puppet in the hands of God. Ishvara sarvabhutanang hridasir junatishthati brahmayan sarvabhutani jantra rudha nimaya. You are a puppet. Whatever God wills, you will do. So the will of God is final. We do not have any freedom to think and work. What is the consequence? We lack in a sense of efficacy, competence. And a sense of competence is a hallmark of democracy or democratic political culture. But that sense of competence is denied to us through our scriptural teachings and indoctrination. And we completely depend upon God. We become fatalistic. This is the reason why, even if the people of India or citizens of India in general observe prevalence of injustice in various walks of life, if there is a murder, if there is annihilation, if there is riots, economic disturbances, they accept all these calamities with great equanimity of mind. They accept it as the will of God. And therefore, God cannot be protested. We cannot do anything. We must tolerate it. Tolerance of ambiguities and contradictions. Therefore, what happens in political life? This value of tolerance of ambiguities and contradictions get reflected in our political life and political behavior. When you think politically, we possess contradictory values simultaneously. We are simultaneously, we tend to become simultaneously an idealist, at the same time materialist. We tend to be selfish, at the same time selfless. We tend to be just and unjust at the same time. See, for instance, what the people do in their realistic life. They give sugar to ants, but they adulterate food articles. They do not hesitate to exploit the people, torture the people, commit injuries to people, but they go to the temple regularly, present themselves as religious individuals. What type of religious individuals are they? They are defeating themselves. They are cheating themselves. This is an instance of self-deception. If you really a believer in God, you cannot do harm to others. Because you see God in all his creations, in all human beings. How can you do harm to others? How can you do injuries to others? How can you exploit others? You must, therefore, a true believer in God would cherish and practice the values of liberty and equality and fraternity. He will not deceive himself. Self-deception has no place here in the case of a true believer. But most of us are self-deceived. We think something, we say something, we do something, and there is no correlationship between what we say, what we do, and what we think. We have in our mind contradictory values and perceptions, and we move very quickly from one value to another. We become, therefore, opportunistic. Most of the Indian citizens are opportunistic, Machiavellian in psychology. They stick to the principle of end justifying means. They have a selfish end. They are concerned about their own self. Why? Because they are parochial. They have a parochial mindset. And parochialism issues forth in selfishness and corruption. And such an immoral individual can adopt any means to get things done, to realize the end. That is what we are. And consequently, the fourth major anti-democratic attribute, criminal mindset, lumpen mindset. The consequence is criminalization of politics, lumpenization of politics. Why? Why resort to crime? Because we are selfish. Why we are selfish? Because we are parochial. A selfish individual is an immoral individual. He will not hesitate to do immoral things in life, adopt immoral strategy to get things done, to secure money and wealth, to have power and positions and status in society. He can go to any extent, adopt any means, without being bothered as to whether the means is moral or immoral, ethical or non-ethical. This is the reason why we find in contemporary Indian society, Indian behavior, political behavior, which emanates from his paternal political culture in his mind, gets polluted, gets criminalized, gets lumpenized. And the consequence is destruction of national property, life and property. Recently, when you look at the TV, a number of trains were burnt by the so-called Agnivir or future Agnivirs. This is the state of mind. This is the pattern of political culture we have. How can peace and order be established? How can the state of India would grow and develop when there is no peace, no order, no morality, and people are crime prone, lumpen prone? So these are. So what happens in this case, therefore? What is the consequence here, anti-democratic consequence here? We do not have interpersonal trust, a very important attribute for democracy. A sense of self-competence is as important as a sense of interpersonal trust. Democracy would thrive on the basis of interpersonal trust, because peace can be established on the basis of the practice of the principle of interpersonal trust. We are parochial, therefore we do not have interpersonal trust. We are selfish, therefore we do not have interpersonal trust. We fight with one another for furthering our selfish interests. So these are some various stupendous, very glaring anti-democratic or undemocratic propensities or psychological states of mind or mindset of the people of India in general. And therefore, we have not yet been able to develop in us as a whole civic culture. We have remained with parochial participant culture. We have not been able to develop in us civic culture. And unless a civic culture is developed in us, unless and until civic culture is formed in the people of India as a whole, the Indian democratic political system would continue to experience dysfunctions and malfunction. Its performance would be adversely affected, because there would be no stability, no national feeling, no patriotism, only selfishness and immorality ruling this socio-political sphere of life. Therefore, what is required for citizens of India, what is required for students of political science, we must become aware of the prevalent parochial participant political culture of India. We must become aware of it. We must undertake remedial measures to get it changed or transformed to civic culture. There lies the solution of the problem. And that civic culture can be formed in the people of India through a process of political socialization. The process of political socialization is a process of political learning. It is a process of political indoctrination as well, where varieties of political socializers, such as the family, the school and educational systems, peer group, workplace, mass media, government agencies, political parties, secondary groups, all these major or important political socializers would work together for transmitting civic orientations to the people, socializing them, re-socializing them. They have already been socialized traditionally by parochial participant culture, but there is need for re-socialization into civic culture, so that the people of India would give priority to national interest and allegiance than to personal, parochial and primordial allegiance. A situation of peace and order would be established. A high sense of efficacy can be developed. A sense of interpersonal trust can be practiced. This is the demand of the time. This is the necessity of the time. The prospect of Indian political system, its dynamics in the sense of stability and viability, or change, transformation and disintegration, tends to be crucially determined by the pattern of political culture that we form in us. So we must strengthen the foundation. If the building is to last, become durable, we must strengthen the pattern of political culture of the people of India through the process of political socialization. We must be democratic. At the same time, we must be national and rational. This is not to say or suggest that we have to relinquish our primordial or parochial allegiances of family, caste, tribe, language, religion, etc. No. We must have our allegiance to primordial institutions. But at the same time, we must be allegiant to the political system, render obedience to the government. No doubt, we have a right to protest. But the protest, the satyagraha, must not be based upon hinsa. What is done today? In the name of satyagraha, violence is committed. Is it satyagraha? Such people do not understand what Gandhi means by satyagraha. Therefore, the need of the time is, we must change our mindset through the working of the political socializers as a whole. We must form in ourselves a civic culture. We must retain our parochial allegiances, no doubt, but at the same time, we must be allegiant to the political system. We must participate actively, extensively, but at the same time, obey the political system. We must not jeopardize it. We must not do any behavior which would lead it to disintegration. Therefore, civic culture needs to be formed in the people, and that is the only panacea. If at all, Indian political system, we intend to remain stable and viable through time. Democratic Indian political system. With this, I conclude my discussions and deliberations. Questions, if any?
Thank you so much, sir.
Yes.
Yes, Bhuyan, sir.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much, sir, for your wonderful deliberation on the topic. I owe my gratitude to you for accepting our invitation on behalf of the department. I am very much thankful to you. Now it is the discussion hour. The scholars, students of the department will interact with the resource.
Yes.
And I hand over to Sanjaya for conducting this interaction section. Sanjaya, some students they have put their questions in the chat box.
Yes. They're free
And
to ask questions.
others are also free to ask questions. Okay.
Yes.
Sanjaya, you manage
Sir.
the
Yes, sir.
Exactly, sir.
I invite questions therefore.
Before the question answer sessions, I would like to invite Dr. Himanshu Shekhar Mishra sir for give his observations on this topic. Please, sir.
Okay, thank you, Sanjay. It was wonderful. I know Guru sir, and I know his systematic deliberation on Indian culture. And I always believe that theory and practice are connected. And when you are discussing about the practice of Indian culture, you should connect it with the theory. And you can, again, if you find any problem with the practice, you can also theorize the practice. And that's the process of research and academics. And I do understand, and I know this view. I know this view, whatever Guru Shar said, that the importance of civic culture is the only panacea. That's actually true. This participant culture will not work if you don't understand how to be, how to localize your demand, at the same time, how to develop rational and national, mentality or mindset with you. Only then I think my family is important for me, but at the same time, there is something called righteousness. I think both are important, and I think we need to maintain both. Both has significance for the human life and human good life, actually. So I think what observation I will give, I mean, I know it, and it's actually a wonderful deliberation, and we love to hear Guru sir. And let me say that to understand Guru sir and his English, I think you need to have something with you, otherwise you will miss everything. Right. So thank you, Sanjay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, my supervisor, for giving his uh, observation on this topic. Then I would like to request our fourth semester student, Pralay Kumar Mahanti, to summarize the topic. Yes, Pralay. Yes, Pralay, please.
Yes. Question is there. Give an example of civic culture. Civic culture you can
Thank you, sir,
find.
for giving me this opportunity to
Yes.
summarizing this. So, the political culture and political system are closely linked and influenced to each other. As past sir talk about the political cultural theory, and the second, he was influencing particularly the pattern of political culture. And particularly as theory concerned, it is putting a lot of importance to understand the pattern of any political culture, particularly a country. Almond was defined it in like three parts as pure from political culture. It may be seen within everyone and like individual prospection and individual scenario. Political culture also seen like parochial, like participatory and subjective. And also it is different and it have different from people to people with levels respective to the political culture and the culture of the where he belongs. And in empirical observation, Almond narrated four mixed political culture and democratic political culture can never be survived without rational and civic culture. India is democratic political system, but we are lacking through total participation. We are remain in parochial participated that political culture because we may not affiliated to our nation as such. We are affiliated to our ethnicity and our race, caste, so on and so forth. define that the Indian mindset, we are focusing upon core anti-democratic mindset. That's a parochial, authoritative, and fatalistic and criminal. Sir defined about the chapter 18 and 8 of the Bhagavad Gita, how it was influenced the fatalistic anti-democratic mindset of the people, and how the authoritative behavior of our religion, our socio-cultural impact, how father, we are always rendered to our father. Maybe our father may crime, but we don't. And lastly, the democracy thrives on the basis of interpersonal trust, but we have not. Only through political socialization we can achieve it. The civic culture, which represents all participation, and participation is main interesting thrust to develop a democratic political culture which help to everyone. Thank you, Shah.
Yes, brother.
Sanjaya.
Sir.
Sanjay.
Sir.
There are some questions in the chat box.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir. I'm asking. Okay. Now it's time for question answer session. First question asked by Soumyaranjan Jena. In USA, UK, and Russia, and China, which type of political culture exists?
In UK and USA, we have instances of the civic culture to some extent.
Another question asked by Vrindavan Nahak. Esteemed sir, how can you say that submission to authorities of parents is a hindrance in the development path of a civic culture in India?
Yes. What it teaches. Authoritarian values are learned through the agencies of the family. Authoritarianism is the negation of democracy. Democracy and authoritarianism cannot go together. If you are authoritarian, you cannot become democratic because you deny the value of liberty and equality. If you are democratic, you cannot accept authoritarianism. So these are two contradictory values and ideologies. So if you decide for yourself whether you are interested to have a democratic mindset, a democratic system, or you like to have an authoritarian system, decide for yourself. But since we have democratic political system, we need to form in ourselves democratic values. We must champion, cherish, and practice the values of liberty, equality, fraternity. We must have a high sense of efficacy, at the same time, interpersonal trust. This is the requirement.
Sir, Sanjay, can I add? I think being the student of, we all are the student of political science, so I think that we should think in that way. And let me ask. I mean, sir, ethical development of any individual, it begins with the obedience to our parents, but in subsequently, when you grow, young, and your parents, they become old, then there is, difference. And at that time, I think obeying blindly to the parents, it may go against the righteousness.
Yes.
I think you have to show some maturity. You can
Yes.
also go against your parents in order to protect the righteousness. So Vrindavan, I think you are partially right, but if you are a child, you can obey. But if you are already grown up, I think
Yes.
you should be guided by some, higher values, not by your parents. I mean, that's your responsibility. Yes, Sanjay, you can continue.
Thank you so much.
Another question is, what kind of urgent steps that government of India needs to undertake for furthering civic culture among the people?
Not only the government is not alone sufficient to take as any step. Government is a part of the total process of political socialization. Political socialization in civic culture must start with family. Then it must be practiced in schools and educational systems, in colleges and universities, in peer group, in workplace, in political parties, in secondary groups. Government is only one part of the process. Government is not alone sufficient. You have to do it by yourself. Become conscious, change yourself. This society will change. The state will change.
Thank you so much.
Another question asked by our student Shivani Samal. In which society we can find civic culture?
Yes,
Please
I've
give an
already-
example of
Yes.
civic culture and how to bring it in our Indian society.
Yes, I've already told it. In UK and USA, we may get the instance of civic culture to some extent, but not completely.
Sir, how to bring it in our Indian society?
Yes, through the process of political socialization again. It must start with the family. Your parents must be democratic first, because you are born in the family, reared up in family environment. During childhood and adolescence, the parents must be democratic. There is a power structure, there is a authority structure in the family, represented by the parents, constituted by the parents. So parents must be democratic in their interactions with the children. They must treat the children affectionately, with love and affection, must allow the children to raise their demands and grievances, problems, issues freely to the parents. And the parents must not impose their views, must not terrorize them, must not coerce the children. But what happens in most of the families? Parents make decisions, impose the decisions upon the children. How can the children would develop democratic orientations? There is no participation of the children in family decision-making matters. Even between husband and wife, it is husband who takes the final decision, not even the wife. What type of democracy is there? We are authoritarian in our temperament, in our behavior, in our mindset. We are authoritarian. We communicate authoritarian values. How can our behavior be democratic when we become adult and perform political roles? How can a democratic political system would survive if behavior is not democratic? This is the question. This is the predicament. So the family must be democratized first. Then social institutions, political institutions. There must be democracy everywhere. Democracy must be a way of life. Not merely politically, but socially as well.
Sir, every institution is having a head. And, to what extent it will be correct to say that the head of the institution, whether it is university or family,
Yes.
that he or she should be democratic. I mean, how democratically the head of the institution
The institutions must be conducted, the affairs of the institution must be conducted in terms of rules and regulations duly codified, not on the basis of whims and caprices of the head of the department. No. What happens in your department? Why do you face problems? Because of whims and caprices of your head. When the head doesn't work on the basis of the provision, the statute book, on the basis of the codified rules and regulations, what type of value you will learn? Because you are an adult, you can learn, you will retain yourself, protect yourself from running the authoritarian values. You criticize the head as authoritarian. But what happens in the family? In the family, you are child, you are immature, cognitively immature. Parents are authoritarian. Decisions are imposed on us, imposed upon you. For obedience, you are rewarded. For disobedience, you are punished. You do not know what is good or bad. And you observe your parents, their authority patronage model. They are authoritarian. You tend to be authoritarian. Subsequently. This is the linkage. This is a complex process, therefore.
Another question asked by our student Jandra Behra. How does political culture affect the Indian political system?
That is the central theme of my discussions.
Yes, we have already discussed.
I've already discussed it. Probably the question of the person who has raised the question has not listened to the discussions. You leave it in the YouTube.
Yes, sir.
So it will, the students and teachers and other interested persons may view it at large. And they must change themselves. Every individual must democratize himself or herself. Then only behavior would be democratic socially. then only behavior would be democratic politically. And when democratic behavior would emerge, the democratic system would be strengthened, reinforced.
He asked another question: how Indian political culture impact on international politics?
We are here discussing democratic political culture in the case of a national society. And the same thing can be applied so far as the international society is concerned. Why there is authoritarianism of the five permanent members of the Security Council in UN? Why there is authoritarianism? Why do they have veto power? That is undemocratic. How can you learn democracy so far as the international community is concerned? Democratize it. That is the demand of India. Democratize the Security Council first. The power structure needs to be democratized. So civic culture needs to be displayed by the members of the international community, even in the United Nations. Then there will be peace and order in society. Why there is authoritarianism of Russia over the neighboring states? Wherever there is power, he imposes his views on others. This is authoritarianism. Wherever there is imposition, there is authoritarianism. So in case of international society, there is no civic culture, there is authoritarian culture, undemocratic culture. It needs to be reformed. There is need for reformation at present.
Another question asked by Pralay Mahanti: how does globalization impact the political culture, and particularly in the Indian context?
Yes. You make yourself open. Do not close your eyes and ears. You must be exposed to media communications freely, without any censor. You must view these lifestyles, the orientations, the behavior of the developed societies, and change yourself. If you close your minds, if you close your eyes and ears, how can you change yourself? How can you reform yourself? You must think rationally, judge rationally and nationally. That is the requirement for formation of civic culture. There must be rational perception, rational opinion, rational judgment. At the same time, your opinion must be national.
If anyone asks 2 questions, or any faculty members or students, they can please ask.
Yes.
Direct.
And you tell Pralay has read it.
Sir,
please.
I have some
Yes.
questions. Not exactly questions, sir. Actually, I wanted to know.
Yes.
Like, sir, you analyze the democratic culture, or you say the other thing is dictator or autocratic. But, sir, in your lecture, you have pointed out many incidents of Delhi or this recent the Agnipath scheme and all that.
Yes.
So their behavior means like how government reacted. Then we see like the opposition, they call it is undemocratic. Like government should.
You first examine whether the demands and the behavior of the agitators were national and rational. You can get the answer by yourself.
Absolutely. Yes,
you can
sir,
get
yes,
the
sir.
answer by yourself.
No, sir. I got it, but my question is like they also follow the pattern of democracy. But yeah, like you also deliver in your lecture already.
Yes, they participate.
You said
they have
violence.
culture.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
They have participant culture. They participate actively, extensively.
Yes.
But
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But parochial.
Yes, yes, sir.
For
Yes, sir.
parochial gains, for realization of parochial ends.
Then, sir,
And
in
that is
Indian
the problem
context,
there.
sir,
Therefore, they have not yet become national and rational in their orientations.
absolutely,
And
sir,
they
absolutely.
disturbed the functioning of the government of India. And we have
Absolutely, sir.
stone throwing. Why there is stone throwing? On the police, on the public in general. What happened in Prayagraj? You have
Right,
seen
right.
the television there.
But sir, the recent events in Uttar Pradesh, like the Yogi government,
Yes.
actually they did that bulldozer issues, like
Yes, bulldozer
how
issue.
they,
Yes.
so many party persons like oppositions, they are saying it is
They, they, they,
undemocratic
are,
and
they, they are raising no doubt again on selfish considerations. The
okay,
Yogi
sir.
government takes such a
Yeah,
policy to give a lesson to the miscreants. You
right, sir.
cannot control the miscreants peacefully.
But sir, through using that step, then we violate the democratic that
No,
principle.
no, no, you
Like,
do not file a bill because it has been approved by the Prayagraj Development Authority. Yogi government has has followed all rules and regulations minutely, and therefore Supreme Court has supported Yogi.
okay,
Rules and regulations have been followed. Nothing has been done
okay,
whimsically on the basis of whims and caprices of Yogi alone. Yogi has taken the permission and the approval of the Prayagraj Development Authority. The buildings were
okay, sir.
constructed illegally without any authorization from Prayagraj Development Council, and therefore it was demolished. Yogi doesn't drive bulldozer.
Yes, sir. Yes,
The
sir.
order for
Definitely.
demolition was given by Prayagraj Development Authority.
Sir, I think Sharada Babu was asking there is something called a concept democratic despot. I mean, you are following the principles of democracy, but at the same time, you are also a despot. I mean, how you will react to such a concept, democratic despot, following the principles of democracy, but then you are, creating a culture of a despotic culture.
Yes. Therefore, you must enlighten yourself while voting at the election. In the next elections, remove Yogi from power by organizing public opinion. If you find that Yogi is unjust, remove him through anti-incumbency voting.
That's a very straightforward answer. That's a smart answer also. Sir, I
Yes.
have a question. I mean, in a civic culture, you said that on one hand, you must have the rational and national attitude or mentality, and on the other hand, you should also concern about your local needs. Now, for students, I'm asking this question. Now, when you are
Yes.
concentrating on your local needs, for example, you are concentrating on your family. That is your local need. But how to distinguish between
Yes.
local needs and parochial needs?
You are to fulfill your needs of the family, needs of your primordial groups. You must retain your primordial allegiance. There is no problem. In your parochial interest, personal interest to promote national interest. That is required. If there is any conflict, so you must not go against national interest. You must judge it rationally and nationally.
I mean, you are saying if there is any conflict between your local needs and your rational and national need, then you
Yes.
should make your rational and national need prevail upon the local need.
Yes,
Then only you will
certainly.
not
That is what civic culture needs.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Lastly, I request Dr. Sharada Prasanna Rout, my colleagues, to propose a vote of thanks.
Thank you, Sanjay, for giving me this opportunity. In behalf of the Political Science Department, the PG Department of Political Science, Berhampur University, I extended my vote of thanks to the Honourable Vice-Chancellor who joined this for this webinar for some time because of her busy schedule. she could not stay for a long time. Then the today's speaker, the former professor Shyama Prasad Guru sir, who delivered such a wonderful lecture. The entire lecture was so interesting. I learned so many things. I also believe the other faculty and also the participant also learned a lot by these deliberations. The Indian political culture, trends and perspectives. So the title is also very interesting. Sir deliberations, he divided in two sections, the theoretical and the Indian context. So thank you so much, sir, for your wonderful deliberations and clear understanding over the different questions. And also personally, I also raise some question and you clear my doubt. So thank you so much. And also the other members of the different faculties, and especially thanks to my friend, Dr. Himanshu Shekhar Mishra, uh, who sincerely attend the things, and also he technically handle entire sessions and also recorded the webinar. And thanking him in behalf of the department, also personally, and also the other faculty who were joined and attend entire session. And thanks to Sanjay especially, because he gave entire efforts to conduct this webinar, and through his effort only this webinar become a success today. So thank you so much to all, and my department colleagues and all the university staff members and my friends who make success this webinar today. Thank you so much, sir.
So thank you, Sharada Abu. I think Sanjay, can I stop the recording right now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The meeting come to an end. Namaskar.